Howdy, y'all. Welcome to the Rainbow Crossing Podcast, a podcast where Gen X and Gen Z discuss life's challenges and how we face them as queer people. We have these open conversations to foster a sense of community through different perspectives. I am Julio Guzman, and you are?
Daniel.
How you doing, Daniel?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. How's your week been so far?
It's been a busy week. A little more chilled this week than last week. The podcast got a lot of attention the last week, and I feel like we are in a normal phase now. Still seeing a lot of growth, still getting a lot of great feedback.
Good.
I have a few comments, in fact, that I want to read again. This is Gay Eye Music. Been waiting for this all week, and you two did not disappoint.
Aw.
Everyone share with your friends or anyone who needs a good laugh.
That's cute. I didn't know we were comedies? Clowns?
Clowns,
I
yes.
guess we're clowns.
Yes. The second comment, Sean Bradley Watkins 290 says, "How am I just now finding out about this podcast? It's really so good, and you both have such valuable perspectives on the gay community. Also, I am in a 10-year difference relationship. I am 24 and my boyfriend is 34, and the advice you both gave helps me a lot. Thank you."
You're welcome.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So this is doing what it needs to do.
exactly. Yeah.
Love that.
The final one, I just threw this one in because I was feeling charitable. Digby Crankshaft 7572. Julio is so damn fire.
Wow. That's probably the best one. I'm joking. The other ones were more nice. But thank you to... Did the username say shaft in it?
Crankshaft, not...
Thanks, mister.
Anyway.
Well, those are great comments.
Yeah.
Are you ready for today's discussion?
Yeah, it fits in well with kind of where my mental state has been lately, as I have been, dipping my toes back in the dating waters.
Okay.
It's been a year since I've been in a relationship, but it's been almost 4 years since I've dated at all. So it's rekindled some thoughts that I haven't had to really think about in a long time. And that is, what exactly am I looking for in a relationship? And what kind of qualities am I looking for in another person? You and I have talk about these sorts of things all of the time. And what are your, green flags, red flags in a relationship?
Do you want to go just have a conversation of how our red flags are, and then maybe we can jump into the green flags towards the end?
Yeah, let's get the negative stuff out of the way first.
End it on a better note.
And end on a better note.
There we go.
Yeah. So one of my red flags is avoidant behavior. And by that, I mean someone who, at the first sign of trouble, is ready to hit the road. Mm-hmm. And I am an anxious attachment style, which is the complete opposite of an avoidant attachment style. And so that means I'm looking for reaffirmations on the relationship. And it's because I have suffered a lot of loss in relationships that it really triggers me when someone is like, "Hey, I really don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to talk about this." And I dated someone who that was their style of handling conflict in the relationship. Now, just like I'm an anxious attachment style because of my past, they were an avoidant attachment style person based on their past history. So it's what they had been taught by their family members, the people that they had established relationships with at an early age. But it's really challenging when you have an argument and it gets a little heated and they say, "I'm leaving," and you live together.
Yeah, that person should probably not be in a relationship for a while if they're that easy to just jump the boat.
Well, we went back and forth on this a couple of times, and this happened. And I had to push down my anxious behavior and let them do what they felt like they needed to do in the moment, not chase after them, let them go into the garage and get into their car and then sit in their car for 30 minutes or an hour until they came back in, and then we're ready to have a conversation.
So really just for the drama.
It
They're like, I'm gonna leave, and then they just sit in the car, and then they're like, okay, fine, I'll come back
it
inside.
seemed a bit dramatic at the time. And this person will even admit, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I used to do that. It was so dramatic on my part. But really, it was just a learned behavior. Like, they saw their parents do these things, and that's how they learned how to do them. So, fortunately, it's something that we were able to work on together. But it definitely is a red flag, and it's not necessarily something that someone can easily overcome. If it's something that came up and it's something that I saw like right away on a first few dates, it might be something that would cause me to pump the brakes a little bit.
I feel like I'm anxious attachment at the beginning of any connection. I just like to keep it going and seeing where it's at and like progress. But usually once it gets to a point where it's like not clicking, I easily become avoidant.
It is interesting because I do see both aspects of that in you, where you can cling on pretty quickly early on, but then
If the chop needs to come, the chop comes. Or if there needs to be space, I can easily just be like isolated to myself for a while
sure.
and process those things.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's a healthy avoidant in a way.
I feel like as long as you're communicating what's going on,
I feel
and
like I'm not
just
avoiding the situation or my feelings. I'm more like like giving time space so I can process what's going on. So in a way, I'm kind of like feeling those things
right.
and accepting those things and probably trying to process them.
And if the person is important to you and you're communicating, hey, this is what I need a little space, I need a little time.
Which can be tricky sometimes because sometimes the other person's like, no, I need to have this conversation now. I'm feeling like I need to step back and you're feeling like I need to come in a little bit more.
Right. And you and I don't have a romantic relationship, but as friends, we have experienced that thing where I want to talk about it right away because I'm that anxious person who like, I need to resolve this because I care about you and I don't want any damage done to the relationship. And if we can resolve this faster, it'll make it better.
But there's nothing that triggers me more than a white man getting heated with me. Nothing to do with you, but it's just, generational trauma growing up. I had to deal with a lot of people. And it doesn't have to do with you. It really just has to do with that subconscious feeling of like, I'm not going to let this person tell me what to do. Or if you get heated and I get heated, I'm like, you want to settle it now, but I cannot not get heated when you're heated.
Yeah.
So I have to escape.
I mean, both of us, to a degree, are emotional chameleons, where we will pick up on the energy around us and start to replicate it to a degree.
Yep.
If we're not very careful, it's something that we both have to be aware of. And the problem is that you never know when you're going to get into an argument with someone. It's just, you're just going to
It
just
could be
pop
so
up.
random. Sometimes my tone, just like I just speak and it just comes out. It's just coming out of my mouth and you hear some sass and I'm like, I don't think there was sass in that. And then I rephrase and I hear what you heard and I'm like, okay, I could see where he maybe heard some tone, but sometimes it's just how I respond.
The important thing is whatever kind of relationship, whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship, is that you come at it of like, how could they be seeing this and how can I reframe it? And that the other person is doing the same thing at the same time so that you step out of your own shoes and walk a little bit in the other person's. And if you can both do that, then you're going to be golden.
Yep.
Indeed.
Here we are.
Here we are. You know,
Exactly,
we're
like
proof of that
it's
because
working.
we've had the arguments and
Definitely.
we take a moment and regroup and all is well.
And carry on.
Yeah. How about a red flag for you?
A red flag for me is someone like this. Also, it doesn't even have to be with dating. I have some red flags when it comes to people who are just trying to build connections or be friends. I have red flags for all of the specific types of things. If I see one person acting a certain way, I don't want that in any kind of relationship or connection that I form. Like, for example, one of them is constantly like canceling plans or it's more like a commitment issue is what I notice. Like sometimes you're just like, hey, when are you free? Let's hang out. You want to be friends? Let's do those steps that takes to be friends. But once that energy is applied, it's like, oh, I can't, or I'm busy. And then next thing you know, I see them post on their story or they're out with other people. And it's like, so can you make plans or do you not want to make plans? Are you just speaking and not following through with your words? Most likely. But at that point, it's like, don't commit to something that you can't do. So If I see wavering patterns of people expressing that they want to form a connection, but the energy's not being matched, that's a time for me to go. Red flag.
Yeah, 100%. In any kind of relationship that you're entering into, you want to receive the energy that you're putting out. So if you don't have equal energy over the course of a relationship, obviously there are going to be times where you're putting in more than the other person. But if that's a consistent pattern, it can't go anywhere. And it's so great to be able to recognize that early on. Hey, I'm putting in a lot more effort than the other person is. This probably isn't the right thing for me.
Correct. And it's very interesting because I would assume people would have the same definition for what a friend is, you know? Someone who can like you can count on when you're feeling down. Someone who's going to support you and also listen from your perspective and try to understand where you're coming from instead of like jumping the gun, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need someone to lean on, and that's what I feel like a friend should be doing for you.
A lot of friends, a lot of younger friends, they haven't had to go through those sorts of things. So I don't think that they've learned what is needed out of them to be friends. And some people just lack that level of empathy. Even if they've received the support, they don't quite understand what it means to give the support. They don't understand how to view something from another person's point of view. A lot of it just goes back to empathy and finding people in your life who can empathize with you, who are willing to empathize with you, even if they haven't been through the exact thing that you're going through, that they're willing to like listen.
That's another red flag, lack of empathy.
That's a big one.
That's probably one of my biggest ones, probably, for sure.
Absolutely.
If you're connecting with someone and let's say y'all are friends, why are we lacking the connection of just warmth in moments of darkness? If you're going to say we are friends, are we just friends in the moments that we are out partying? Are we just friends in the moments where we're taking pictures and just posting about it? Or are we friends in the moments where things get real, where things get dark, where you might not see light later on and you need someone to lift you up?
The Instagram moments, those are the fun moments. Those are the easy moments. Like anybody can be a friend to someone who's going out, having a good time, celebrating whatever happiness in their life. It's those hard moments when someone is suffering and things get real that it becomes a challenge to some people and that's when it becomes clear like, oh, they're not as invested in me as I am in them. And maybe they don't know how to invest. Maybe they weren't invested in when they were younger. They learn that they just have to take care of themselves because that's what they were shown.
Yeah, I mean, there's been multiple connections in my life where I've felt like I value someone as a friend in a very deep way. And the friendship that I have to offer sometimes isn't reciprocated the same way. And you can't expect that from everybody.
Yeah.
I've had to pull back at times and adjust that level of love and friendship that I can give. I still love these people, but there's moments where it's like we're not understanding one another. We're not giving each other what we need as friends. And that might just be we're not compatible anymore, or maybe we're looking for different things. But it doesn't have to crumble for it to just have some space.
As I've gone through some big moments in my life, some big changes, some big upsets, there were people who I was very close to, and I expected them to be there for me in a larger capacity than what they were. And they did not have the understanding of what I was going through to recognize like, oh, he really needs someone to lean on right now. I've had a few people who I was very close to and still am close to come to me years later and apologize and say, I'm sorry I wasn't there for you in that moment. I didn't realize what you were going through. And they've experienced a big breakup or a big loss in their life. And then it clicked, oh, this is what Daniel felt in those moments. I was too young. I hadn't experienced this sort of loss before. I didn't really understand the depths of emotion that he was going through. Yeah. Another red flag of mine, and this, you may think this one's kind of funny, but I think it's actually pretty indicative of bigger things, is when you're dating someone, you go to the grocery store together, they're in charge of the buggy, and they don't put the grocery cart into the little corral in the parking lot. They just leave it. They push it up on the grass, or they push it over into a parking space. I think that is so indicative of that person is self-involved, selfish, doesn't think about other people. Because ultimately, someone who's working there has to go. Now they have to go out of their way to get it, or it could hit a car. It's not my problem. It's somebody else's.
Yeah, it kind of correlates to another red flag similar to it when people are rude to customer service people. Like when I'm at a restaurant, I've worked in customer service for a very long time. I mean, I started working fast food at 15, was working fast food retail. And then when I went to college, I was serving, like I was a waiter, and then I started bartending. So like I've been in it.
Yeah.
And we deal with people who will act like you don't exist. Sometimes you could go greet a table and they won't even acknowledge you. Just say hi. Like if someone's standing there that you don't know, look at them.
Yeah.
Acknowledge them. That really ticks me.
That one was on my list also. Of it indicates someone is really self-involved, doesn't think about other people. And that's one thing that I look for is just kindness, thoughtfulness in a partner. I very much try to make sure anytime I'm at a restaurant and the server asks, "How are you?"
Yeah.
I answer, and then I always say, "How are you?"
Definitely.
And because they're an actual person.
And I get their name and I make eye contact with
Yeah.
them. Because sometimes people will like acknowledge them, but not really. Like, oh, hey, and like looking away from them and just like waving their hand. Like, I get that it's their job, but also they're doing something for you that you don't want to do. You don't want to cook. You're going out to eat. This person's serving you. This person's taking care of you. This person's bringing everything to you.
You're paying them for this service. But to me, it just indicates what kind of person you are, how you treat other people, especially when there's some kind of money involved there.
And those people are the ones who are usually working the hardest.
Yeah.
So
it's a rough job.
It's a hard job.
So red flags, green flags.
Okay.
We don't often hear about yellow flags. And like you actually mentioned that to me before the podcast.
Yes.
And I never really thought about that, never really heard anyone mention that before.
I mean, the way that I think of a yellow flag is something that could be worked on if we're willing to understand it. Because like when a yellow light comes on, you're either going to slow down and stop, or you're going to speed through and get past it.
There's a decision to be made there. It's not like if you see red, you have to stop. If you see green, you have to go. If you see yellow, what am I going to do? There's some questions involved there. So yellow flag for you.
For me, one that could be a little controversial, but I also stand by is boundaries. I get people have boundaries. I will respect boundaries. I set boundaries. But usually if I'm setting a boundary, I do give the person the benefit of the doubt where I'm coming from to fully understand that, if I care about them. Sometimes if this person's nobody to you, you can set a boundary and not tell them anything. But if you care about them, the other person should be willing to know, like, where is this coming from? Did I do something wrong? Is there anything that I can do to help you feel more comfortable as to why you established this boundary? You know? I'll meet them there. I'll give them space, but I would still like to know what's up. Unless you aren't wanting to progress in any connection, then at that point it just becomes we're not moving forward.
Yeah.
We're moving on.
Boundaries are essential.
For sure.
At the end of the day, we all have to take care of ourselves. Like we need to put ourselves first to a certain degree. So boundaries are essential.
Like I set a boundary once with this guy. I said, hey, you really need friends? At first we were mingling, talking about it and being flirtatious, but then they said they really need friends. I said, sure, I'll introduce you to friends. Just one thing, since you're not progressing with me, like I don't want you instantly like flirting with my friends. Like I'm giving you friends because you say you need friends. Instantly starts flirting with my friends, and that boundary was crossed. And I simply was like, you know what? It was one simple thing. There's plenty of people in the city. You can flirt with whoever you want, but you decided to flirt with my friends.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was like, that's a no for me. Just because I gave you one simple boundary, and if you crossed it, sure, then maybe you're not respecting me as a friend, and so I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Simple as that. I've had this conversation with people before, the same thing about the boundaries, and they're like, well, you can't control people. Correct. I'm not trying to control him. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Whether I'm setting a boundary and it's being respected is a different thing. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
What about you? Do you have any yellows?
For me, one yellow flag is lack of common interests.
That could be very problematic.
So again, back in the dating pool, and the last person I dated, we had a lot of things in common. There was a bit of an age difference between the two of us, but we still liked a lot of the same stuff. And there was a lot of commonality there, which made things really easy. And now that I'm talking to some people again, do I match with someone that is super, super outdoorsy? I enjoy the outdoors, but I am so white. I have to sunscreen it up regularly if I'm going to be outdoors, and that gets old after a while. So I'm doing my own thing. They're doing their own thing. And so
That's how I would picture like my relationship if I were to get in one. Like I do want to have similar interests with that person if there's like hiking and sports and stuff, but we don't need to be the same.
No.
Like
There
you need to
needs
have your own things. I need to have my own things
right.
as well.
That's healthy for sure.
Yeah.
There needs to be some level of intersection between your interests. At least for me, it's not a deal breaker one way or the other, but it is something to be mindful of. If your person does enjoy volleyball, plays a lot of volleyball, like you probably need to go to some of those games and support them. So is that something that you're willing to do to kind of cross over out of your day-to-day routine and find interest in their interests?
For sure. But that's a form of love, like just finding those interests that they have and also kind of getting into them a little bit yourself.
Right.
It's showing support for them,
Right.
Showing them that I love you and I would love this thing for you as well.
In a perfect world, that's a two-way street. That's the goal, is finding some level of intersectionality and then a person who's willing to give as well as they get.
Here's another random yellow flag for me. When someone's overly talkative. Like I don't mind having conversation, but I do need my moments of silence.
Yeah, I know.
There's just some peace in quietness.
There are times when I'm talking to you and I'm just like, he's so over this right now. He does not want me to be talking at all.
I am listening to everything, but my face is probably just like eyes wandering. You ask me what's going on, I'll tell you like what I'm listening to, so you know that I'm paying attention. But I'm like, moments of silence.
Yeah.
2 minutes.
Well, it's all about figuring out who the other person is, what they need, and them communicating to you what they need, and you being respectful of that.
But also, for example, like you're here at home, so I am a lot of your interactions when it comes to speaking. Me, I'm out coaching, or I have a headset in my ear and I'm listening to music nonstop, working on music. So it's like I'm constantly getting feedback and speaking.
Right.
So sometimes I just need some silence.
Yeah.
So please stop talking to me.
But sometimes I need to talk.
I know.
But I think we're very respectful of each other.
For sure.
I don't think you've ever just flat out told me, but I can read you pretty well at this point. And so I know I'm like, he needs space, he needs time. And so I drop it because I have a lot of things I want to share.
You do.
And
you're like that eager child just ready to tell everybody what's going on.
One of my many problems is I love data and numbers.
Yes.
And doing this podcast, there's a lot of data that I'm absorbing right now, a lot of statistics and numbers, and we're in the top this percent this week.
Yep.
And I want to share that all the time. Like every time there's an update, I want to tell you about it because, we just moved from this bracket to this bracket.
And you do.
Last week, I was really super excited about it, and I couldn't hold myself back.
I know.
But this week, I have tried to put my foot on the brake a little bit more. And I think I've been more successful this week than last.
Daniel's the type to walk into the door, whatever is going through his mind, if he needs to let it out, he'll let it out instantly.
I don't hold things in very well.
Especially when you're excited.
I can keep a secret.
Definitely.
But if there's good news to be shared, I just want to share it with everybody. Yeah.
We're going to go back to the red flags for just a couple more.
Yeah.
Do you have any red flags that are more like on the addictive traits? Like, for example, I know one of the red flags for me is when someone drinks a lot.
Yeah, those are tough. I only started drinking when I was in my mid-30s, and I have never really done any kind of drug use at all. I've had a couple of edibles here and there, but that's the extent of it. So it always kind of scared me a little bit when I dated someone who was doing something a little more recreational. The alcohol stuff didn't bother me unless it changed their personality.
Yeah.
And then that was certainly a red flag. But any level of drug use bothered me to a certain degree, but certainly if it's something that someone needed to do regularly, then it was a red flag. I've dated people who drink, have a glass of wine or something every night with dinner. And it's something I keep my eye on. And I did date someone who did that, spending time together. Because I didn't do it, they gradually stopped doing it. So I realized, okay, this is not something that is a necessity in their life. It was probably something that they had just done out of habit and repetition, and something that maybe that they did use as a crutch at some point, but then they quickly realized, I don't need this anymore.
Yeah.
So it could go either way, but obviously excessiveness, or when it really affects who they are, clearly
Definitely.
red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people's easy getaway for a bad day. You know, it makes you let go of some things, takes the edge off, and then makes you have a good time. But also, those things can lead to you being overly emotional, you being maybe angry, even love bombing sometimes, and then not really acting up to it when you're not drinking. When someone drinks a lot, and those more of those scenarios seem to happen over and over again. So now for me, it's just like, if I know that they are constantly drinking, or maybe have to have a drink every day, or getting blacked out every weekend, it's like, that's probably going to be a no for me.
If someone has to have a drink every day, if they're like, I just like to have a beer, I just like to have a glass of wine, then I think the question that they should be asking themselves, but probably aren't, but you're asking, is what is this a Band-Aid that's covering? Obviously, this is hiding something. It's masking something else that's going on that you aren't dealing with. I suppose it could be entirely recreational for some people, but if you feel like you need it to feel some level of happiness that isn't there, that is, I think, a problem.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, like, there's nothing wrong with like letting loose and having fun every other weekend, and like celebrating or just enjoying your time. But when it's a constant thing every week, it's like, what else could we be doing? What are we doing this for? Are we doing this just for fun? Is this the only way you can experience fun? If so, then that's probably not for me either.
You're out living life, and they require something to help them get to that point also. So you're on two different levels at that point.
Do you have any more red flags?
Inability to communicate.
Yep.
That's so important. And, as we've made clear, I am a communicator. I perhaps overly communicate, but I'd rather see that than lack of communication.
And that's one thing that I will always say. I'd rather be too much than not enough.
Yeah.
Personally.
Actually, someone said this in the comments. I don't think I shared this with you because, I was keeping some things to myself this week. But someone did say in the comments that when you find your person, you're not too much for them. You're going to be the right amount for them, which I think a lot of times is absolutely true.
Yeah.
When you just connect with somebody, they're going to love you for all of your big ways.
I don't feel like I'm being too much. I know that the way I am is fine, and the person that I'm going to meet is going to be meant for me.
Yeah.
I know that I might be intense for some, but for some, I might just be giving what they're looking for,
You just need to find the one who it clicks with. And
do you think the one exists?
Do
you think that every person has their person?
I say the one. I think there's a lot of different people who we can connect with.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer of, if two people are both willing to put in the time and the effort, as long as you have some of those like fundamental similarities in common to keep you going, you can have a great relationship with any number of people. Now, is it easier with some people than it is with others? Of course. Are you just going to naturally connect with some people more than you will others? Of course. But I think if two people are willing to give it a go and genuinely have the attraction and the love for one another, there's way more than one out there, for sure. It would be, if it was 1 in 8 billion people, the odds aren't great there.
No, we're probably going to have to be coming back to this earth multiple times.
So many times.
Well, enough with the negativity.
Yeah.
What are your green flags?
One of my most important green flags is when the person admits when they are wrong. And that's not directed to you at all. But if you feel ownership of it,
No.
take it.
Hey, my first green flag was similar to yours.
Really?
That's why
Yeah.
I was kind of laughing.
Okay.
I said receptive to criticism, open to conversation.
I talk about a lot of examples of someone else doing this, but I'm going to talk about this about me.
Yeah.
For this story, I was throwing a big fundraising event, and I have in my mind a certain aesthetic when I'm throwing an event, and I had in mind a very particular type of bartender. Very handsome, muscular. Maybe he would be sleeveless, something. And the person who I was dating at the time suggested a bartender, but they didn't fit what I had in mind.
Okay.
And I pushed back on the idea initially. The person I was dating called me out on it because I didn't say, I don't want this person because they're not muscular. I just said, I'm not so sure. And they said, oh, you don't want them because they don't look a certain way. And they were absolutely right. That's exactly what I was thinking and feeling. And as soon as they said that, I was like, yeah, you're right. I was being completely superficial with this. Looks play a huge part in the world that we live in, but it doesn't need to play a part in, especially when we're doing something like raising money for underserved people in our community.
I mean, I don't know. Some people, just because they're eye candy, will be tipping more.
My motivations were, I suppose, okay for it, but I was willing to push someone aside because they didn't look a certain way. I have to own up to that, and I have to take a long look at myself. So I admitted I was wrong, and we did reach out to that bartender to do the event. But that is one thing that I really try to do is when I'm wrong about something, I try to own up to it and then also move forward and not make those same mistakes again. It's something that I really value and treasure from that relationship as something that I was like, okay, like I know not to judge a book by its cover, but let's put it into practice. So that's something that really helped me.
I have a lot of experiences that have shaped me to know that when I am experiencing something negative or seeing something that I don't like, I'm very open to talking about it. And if I am chatting with someone and there's something that isn't sitting well with me, I'll have that conversation. That comes from a place of just wanting to grow and understand maybe where they're coming from. Maybe they're not even aware of what's happening or how they're presenting themselves. When someone is receptive of what I'm telling them and instead trying to look through my lens, that's a green flag for me. Mm-hmm. Instead of getting on the defense of it. But it's very rare to find someone who will be open to criticism and conversation.
It's hard to be told you're wrong.
It is.
And it's hard to admit you're wrong. So when you find someone who is comfortable enough in who they are, comfortable enough in their relationship with you to be able to say, hey, yeah, I blew that one. Keep the positive stuff coming and let's just grow together. Mm-hmm. That's golden right there. Yeah. And of course, it's also in the delivery of the criticism. So it's a two-way street to a degree. But yeah, that ability to listen. And actually that kind of goes into one of mine also. To be an active listener is such a green flag for me.
Mm-hmm. Like acknowledging all the little things that someone says, or like even saying, oh, I'm going to this trip on this weekend, or like going to go do this. And it's like the smallest little thing. And then they ask about it. Yeah. Oh, how was that? I'm like, wow, I don't even remember telling you that. But the fact that you remember is amazing.
You were paying attention. Yeah,
exactly.
One of my best friends who, we mention here on the podcast occasionally, he is such a great active listener.
Definitely.
To the point where now that I'm on dating apps and I'm like, this person looks familiar. Like, where do I know them from? I'll send him the photo or I'll send him the conversation and I'll ask him, how do I know this person? Because I know he has listened and paid attention, and he'll respond, oh, you remember you went out on a date with that person in 2018. And I'm just like astounded that he listens so actively.
So he's actually like one of your memory chips.
He is. He is that good of a listener. Absolutely. But, active listening isn't just what you hear. Sometimes it's what you don't hear as well. And that's a really tricky
for sure.
thing to master.
Like I could be saying, I'm okay, but if you're reading my energy and it's down,
Right.
it's like, are you really okay?
Yeah.
I'm listening and reading into you, and this isn't your normal energy.
Right, exactly. I had a friend many, many years ago when I was with another partner, and he would always talk about his mom, always, but never mentioned his dad at all. And my then partner, I remember one time, dads came up and he made a joke about the guy's dad, and the guy didn't really laugh. And afterwards, I pulled him aside and was like, "Hey, you know, he's never talked about his dad. Is his dad alive? Is his dad? Does he know his dad? Did they get divorced? Like, what? We don't know his relationship with his dad." And as an active listener, I knew not to bring up his dad because he's never brought up his dad. It's really, really tricky, and it goes into so many other categories. Like, active listeners tend to be less self-involved because they are engaged with you. What you're doing, what you're saying is important to them. Their priority is not on them. It's not on how they're going to respond to you. It's not the story that they have to share. So being an active listener, hearing things that are there and aren't there, that's a good one.
That is a really good one.
Yeah.
I also really enjoy when someone picks up on your personality traits or the things that you're just into, or maybe even the energy that you give off, and they give you like a very specific gift that's tailored to you.
Mm-hmm.
I, first of all, didn't even know that gift giving was one of my love languages until someone got me something that was very specific to me, and it was a bracelet. It wasn't an expensive bracelet. It was just like a very reflective, nice bracelet that was kind of translucent.
Yeah.
And the way they described the bracelet to me and said that it made them think of me, I was like, I didn't even know I could feel this way, like from a gift or something like that. And that, to me, I was like, okay, green flag.
I'm with you. Gift giving is
whole
on the
nother
bottom
episode.
of my list. I don't care about it at all. I do other things to show my love,
Yeah.
and I don't need you to give me anything.
Well-
but when they do what you just described, that's
That's what I'm saying. I didn't even know like gift giving was something that I enjoyed. Like I didn't even think that was up there for my love languages, which I don't think it still is. I have ones that are above it, but it made me feel like, wow, this person's paying attention to who I am and is thinking about me and seeing me in other items and things, like I'm being reflected through things from their lens.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful.
it gives me like a warm feeling just thinking about that and thinking about very like specially tailored gifts that I've received in the past or given in the past. Like, you mean something to me.
This friend has done this to me multiple times, and I'm just like, you're a really good person that is constantly observing.
Should you be dating them?
I tried.
Oh.
It didn't work. Well, they also don't live here. They live in Florida.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
You know who I'm talking about. Yeah. I still love you. As a friend, of course, because
Yeah, that's
you're now
it.
dating someone.
Yeah. One other green flag for me is when you're texting, calling, messaging someone, they respond in a timely fashion.
Yes.
I know we're all busy, and some of us have jobs that keep us very occupied. Like when you're at work, you can't stop and respond to a text. There's no way you can do that. But we make time for the things and the people who are important to us. And sure, I have an 8-hour job that I can't respond to you right away. But if you're important to me, I'm going to see that text when I get off of work or go for lunch or whatever, and I'm going to respond right away.
Or at least leave an end of the day text. Like if you've had the busiest day ever where you just haven't been able to get to your phone, send them a paragraph. Sure. Honestly, like just talk to them about what your day's been like instead of just leaving them hanging. And
send a voice memo. Send, on your way home, call them. I get that's not the easiest thing for a lot of people, but my point with all of that is that we make time for the people who are important to us. If you are waiting 24 hours, 48 hours for someone to respond to you're just not important enough to that person.
Facts.
And it doesn't mean that they see you in a negative way or that they're a bad person. It just means that you probably shouldn't put as much effort into nurturing that relationship because they're not putting that effort into nurturing the relationship.
I mean, I have a bad habit of doing it. Sometimes people do leave me hanging for like 24, 48 hours. And the thing about me is that if someone is telling me, oh yeah, I am so down to hang out. Oh yeah, I'm interested. I'm like, going to follow up. Hello, tell me how you really feel. And that's going to save so much more energy and in time.
You and I have this conversation a lot
We
where
do.
you say, well, they told me, and I say, well, they're showing you
They are
right
showing
now.
me. But I've lived in a world for this whole time of people saying things and not following through that I will live the way I live by making people say what they want to feel and delivering it.
Well,
I'm trying to teach people to be the man who they say they want to be.
but it's not your responsibility
It's
to
not.
teach other people.
And I'm okay if it doesn't work out anyway, is what I'm trying to say. I don't care how it ends up. Either way, I'm good to move on. I'm good to stay, whatever it is. But I'm going to hopefully teach you how to use your words and stand by them.
Well-
Whether that makes me the villain or not, who knows?
As long as you're putting in the effort for your own personal growth
Really.
and happiness, that's
And I
what's
only
important.
try because most of these times when I do hang out with these people, it's a great time. We have the greatest interactions. So I'm like, is that all false? That's why I'm also trying to put together. I'm like, are the moments we are together not real? And if they aren't, then why are we having them?
Right.
Say that you're not really enjoying it. Or
Right.
instead of giving me this false reality of maybe you aren't enjoying your time, but you're showing me that you are, and then you're just saying things and not following through with them. So
Yeah.
I'll keep doing it.
Yeah. Consistency is a great green flag
for
to go
sure.
along with this. If you say something, follow through. If you're showing me something, follow through. If you can be consistent in your actions towards me,
It's almost like nowadays, though, that everyone is getting scared from like interest being shown, even though a lot of people say that they're looking for these things.
well, until they're confronted with them, and then
Facts.
yeah.
What's your takeaway from this chat?
I think we all just need to be more aware of what people are putting out. As I said, people show us who they are. And it requires a lot of lived experience. It requires a lot of dating to pick up on a lot of these signs.
Yeah.
Because there are things that I recognize now at this age that I'll immediately turn around and head out the door that I would never have picked up on 20 years ago. So awareness and just continued evolution.
I guess my takeaway is definitely to stand by the things that have shaped me in regards to who I'm looking for in the life that I'm trying to create for myself, to not budge for those red flags, even though sometimes the love that I give and care, I want to keep working on it. You just got to stop. Once that red flag is presented, you can't move on.
Right. If you go into a relationship expecting someone to change, you are going to be disappointed 90% of the time. So if you cannot accept those red flags in the long run, it's time to head out.
Yep. So I guess learning when to give and when to take, and also when to leave.
Yeah. Learning when to leave. That's a hard one. Yeah. It's been a hard one for me. So I would love to hear from our listeners, viewers, what some of their red flags, green flags, yellow flags are.
Definitely.
Thank you for joining us today.
Another episode.
Yeah.
In the books.
Like, follow, comment, everywhere.
Subscribe. YouTube.
Yeah.
We're on everything.
Yeah.
TikTok, Instagram. Go ahead. Find us. Thank y'all.
Yeah. We'll see you
Bye.
next week.